right, friends? So I haven't been feeling super well the last few days. So instead of doing another minimalism video, I thought I would do a POTS treatment update because I just got back from POTS PT from Johns Hopkins. So I thought, well, let's dive into some of the treatments I've been going through and where I am right now on them. So I have been diagnosed with orthostatic intolerance, and POTS is one of the types of orthostatic intolerance, which affects your heart rate, affects your blood pressure. You can have so many different symptoms. My symptoms tend to be when I stand up too fast, I can get really dizzy. If I'm standing for long periods of time, I feel very sick and dizzy, so I use a shower chair in the shower. And I have a bunch of other symptoms as well, but those are some of kind of the main ones. But my main symptoms are chronic fatigue, and that is actually something we are working on in my POTS physical therapy. So I see a POTS doctor at Johns Hopkins, and she's given me all the, kind of normal POTS treatments. Like, she wants me to drink as much water as I can a day. So aiming for a gallon, which I do not succeed at. And she also wants me to pretty much take as much salt as I can in a day, between 3,000 and 5,000 milligrams a day. At this point, what I focus on is really just intuitive eating. So if I'm feeling a little bit more dizzy that day, I'll try to add a lot more salt to my food. I've tried electrolyte drinks. Unfortunately, they give me cotton mouth, and I really do not like that feeling, which is very strange. If anybody else has POTS out there, please tell me if you have this, because when I add a ton of salt to the top of my food, I never have cotton mouth. I don't have cotton mouth, period. Even though I have Sjogren's, I do not get cotton mouth. However, if I drink an electrolyte drink to try to get a bunch of salt that way, immediately, I've tried Element, I've tried to make my own electrolyte drink, I immediately get cotton mouth, which is so strange. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to pursue that too much. And also a lot of the salty foods, the salty go-to foods like pickles, have onions or garlic in them. And so I have to be really careful about that. I do go to olives a lot as a salty food, and I do have these cassava chips that are my autism safe food right now. But it is really hard for me to increase my salt intake. And I was so diligent about that for a couple of months last year. I was like really keeping track every single day. I was taking my blood pressure 3 times a day to make sure that that didn't get too high. Thankfully, that never got too high. But like, that was my focus for a while, was really trying to increase my water and then really trying to increase the salt, because you have to increase them both at the same time. So that was just kind of tough, was trying to figure out what worked for me. And something my POTS PT said was there's a spectrum, right, of orthostatic intolerance. And on one end, you have people who really their main issue is like the blood pressure, the heart changes, stuff like that. And salt really helps the people that are at that end. He said the other end of the spectrum is like more like chronic fatigue symptom. Like, that's like one of their main symptoms is chronic fatigue. The salt intake doesn't necessarily help as much, right? You also have the compression garments. Compression garments have not really helped me that much either. My POTS PT was kind of like, that's okay. And I'm gonna get into my POTS physical therapy because that has really excited me the most, because we're working on stuff that's actually showing some results, and we actually have some data that shows like what my chronic fatigue is kind of from. So all of that is very interesting. So stay tuned for that in a couple minutes. But in the meantime, yeah, the compression garments. I have some knee-high socks. I think they're from Duluth Trading Company. I want to say their pressure is like 20 or 16. First of all, I don't like socks with my autism, so I generally do not wear socks at all. So wearing socks was hard for me. Second of all, wearing such tall socks, really difficult. And so I have been encouraged to try some other compression garments, including stuff around my torso, which with my endometriosis pain, I cannot do because it's way too tight, and I already have so much abdominal pain that gets worse with pressure. So I've had to be very careful with that. I've been told to try basically like a compression wrap, so you can wrap it yourself. I also have hypermobility, and one of my POTS doctors on my POTS team, she has POTS and hypermobility. And so she was like, yeah, it's really hard, and a way to get around that is to use this like wrap system that comes from this like one company in Canada, but it's incredibly expensive. And so I have not been able to afford that. And again, my POTS physical therapist was like, I'm not sure that the compression is necessarily going to help you as much because you're on this like more chronic fatigue end of the spectrum. So now I want to talk about my POTS PT, because that has been the most exciting part, and we've really been experimenting with a ton of different stuff, and we're actually seeing some really interesting results. So when I first came in, we did this treadmill test. So he also kind of did an abbreviated tilt table test, you know, where you're like sitting down or more so lying down, and then they do your blood pressure, your heart rate, all of that. And then they have you like stand up, and they also take your blood pressure and your heart rate. The longer I was standing there, it didn't pop up to fully POTS level. He said like most people, their heart rate maybe goes from resting to like in the 90s. Mine, I think, was like 120, and I think most POTS patients are like 130. So it was like right under the threshold, right? So it's not normal, but it's not quite to the full POTS threshold. So he was like, okay, so we have that, you know, kind of data. Now, thing that hasn't changed, and that's been very, very fascinating, and I would love to hear if anyone else who has any of these kind of symptoms or problems has either gone to POTS PT or seen this before or done any of these types of tests too. And maybe if you haven't, maybe you can try this out on your own. So if you have a pulse ox, you take that, you put it on your finger, and when I'm at the physical therapy, I use a treadmill. I'm sure you could just start like walking. We test the pulse ox, and when I'm just sitting down, before I even go to the treadmill, my pulse ox will be at 100% like blood saturation, oxygen levels, right? I will go to the treadmill, sometimes even before I start walking on the treadmill, when I'm just preparing myself for like, whew, all right, I'm gonna have to walk, which is too much for me at this point with my level of energy. My oxygen saturation level will drop. It's dropped into the 60s, usually it's around the 70s. It's not good. And then I'll start walking, and either the more exertion I have, like the lower it goes, or when I'm changing. This is something we have been working on, is breathing. So his whole theory, and there is research to back this up with, especially CFS patients, long COVID patients, dysautonomia patients, so POTS patients, there is research to back up that we are not using the right energy systems. So what that means is that when we are doing something that should not take an exorbitant amount of energy, like walking on a treadmill at a normal walking pace, our body will feel like we're running a marathon, and it will start breathing. Like for me, I'll start almost like hyperventilating if I'm just walking up the stairs. I'll just start getting really air hungry. The longer I talk even, the more I feel like, oh, you know, I feel like I need to do some deep breaths to like catch up because I'm getting out of air. So what that means is that your body, when you're doing something that, you know, life is kind of more a marathon than a sprint, your body feels like you're always doing these sprints, and it won't be able to keep up with like the marathon. And so what that means is you're just tired all the time because your body is inefficiently using its energy systems. And the way that we're trying to retrain my body is to do all of these different breathing techniques. So for example, I have props. So today at PT, let me go get my props. Today at PT, I was given a little present, shall we say. All right, so gift one, a straw. But no, the more exciting gift was an expiratory muscle strength trainer. I bet I'm saying that not right. There you go. You can see it. So this is what it looks like. I will get it out to show you. And these are tools that we are using to retrain my breathing. So we just started using this today. Before this, I would take my water bottle. My water bottle has a straw in it. And what I would do is I would blow bubbles. I actually really like blowing bubbles, and I was allowed to blow bubbles as part of my physical therapy. Like after exercise, I would blow bubbles. At least once a day, I would blow bubbles. I gotta let baby in. A little bit of FOMO, shall we say? She wanted to be a part of the video. So anyway, that was what I've been doing for the past several months. Not the only thing I've been doing. Part of my physical therapy has been to blow bubbles. And you're just trying to get long expirations, is that the right word? Exhalations, whatever. You're really trying to like breathe calmly versus your body starting to freak out and starting to feel air hungry. So long, like slow, deep breathing. This tool that we use today that really helped my pulse ox today, so this is very exciting, and it's something that I'm now going to be using. Oh, hi baby. Are you going to be getting into stuff? Why don't you sit on my lap? Okay. So what we did before I did the treadmill exercise today, sorry, it's really hard to babysit and do this. So what I would do is I would hold my nose and I would inhale through here. So do an exhale first. It doesn't help when you're at the other end and I can't breathe through it. So that was something I did 5 times, like 15 seconds in between. And then I went to this one, and this one has different levels of exhalation. I'm just on like 30, so like the easiest one. And what I would do is I would take a breath in and then like a less than 5-second exhale, and you hold your nose too because you don't want to breathe through your nose at all. Baby, stop trying to get my straw. It's my straw. So I go. Sorry, that scared baby. And doing that 5 times with like 15 seconds in between before this and that, before I went on the treadmill. Literally my pulse ox went into the 80s. I think he said a couple times it dropped. Normally it was in the 90s, but it did not drop to the 70s or the 60s this time. So now my new homework is to do this twice a day. And if I'm going to do any type of physical exercise or activity, to do this before I do that as well. And hopefully this will help retrain my breathing. Another thing I will do is actual like physical therapy. I'll do some bridges in a very specific way. I do like marching, laying on my back. The goal is not afterward to feel exhausted. So I need to make sure I'm like breathing throughout and trying to just like relax. So the whole goal is to do physical activity while being relaxed and doing slow, deep breathing and retraining my breathing to be like, this activity is okay. This is not too much. I'm gonna be fine. So that's some of the activity I do. Another thing I'll practice is sitting up in my chair. So I'll be in my chair and I will stand up in a very like specific way. I don't think you can see that at all. And then sit down in a very specific way. And I will work on my inhales and exhales during that in a specific way to help again retrain my breathing. Another thing I'll do is that when I'm laying down before I get out of bed, I'll like kind of pump my feet and put something between my knees and squeeze it really hard. Do several different things to get my like blood flowing. It actually has helped so much. Usually when I used to get like out of bed in the morning, I would kind of get lightheaded, and now I don't, because you're like waking the system up kind of before you go in. Baby, she's rubbing against the camera. So the POTS PT has been a game changer, and my physical therapist, he is so incredible. He is such a like a veteran in the field. Like he knows so much about so many different things. Obviously, I mean, he works at Johns Hopkins, right? So do you want to sniff it? I don't know what she wants. So he like knows so much about hypermobility and about CFS and all this like research and stuff that he's done. And he's just a wealth of knowledge. So a lot of times when we go in for an appointment, it's like a 2-hour appointment, which is amazing because it does take us at least an hour to get there. So each way is an hour, which is a really big track. But unfortunately, I think that at the end of July, when I lose my health insurance, I will lose my POTS physical therapist as well, because it's out of state. And once you have PA Medicaid, you are not covered out of state. So I have started going every other week. I was going like once a month before this, and then when we figured that out, we have been really putting in the effort and energy. Shout out to my dad for driving me, and we are going literally every other week to try getting in as much as we can before my insurance ends, because this is a very long process, is what he said. Like this whole breath retraining thing and retraining your breathing, it's a really, really long process. And so I'm trying to get as much information as I can now to last me, so that hopefully after I have to unfortunately just end PT, I'll at least have some of these tools that I can continue working on even after the end. So anyway, this is kind of a longer video, but I know I have a lot of friends who have POTS and orthostatic intolerance, and so maybe this video is helpful and interesting, and maybe you'll find a POTS PT in your community that can help you as much as mine has helped me. We'll see in a couple more weeks and months where my POTS treatment goes, but very excited to be pursuing all of this. So thanks for listening, friends. I will talk to you in the next video. Bye.